Prefixes and suffixes in English and Spanish can be very similar. For example, in the word predecir. The prefix is pre, meaning before, and in English, we can translate this word to predict. By grasping and teaching else how to chunk words and locate their prefixes and suffixes, we can then try and decipher their meanings. We can help teach comprehension skills this way. I've also included the examples of con, to put together, in the word contratar, which means contract, and shun, which in English has the equivalent in Spanish of xion. So destination versus destinación. Punctuation differs significantly between these two languages. In Spanish, exclamation and question marks start and end every sentence that requires them. Further, these marks start inverted at the beginning of a sentence, and this allows the reader to see that when they are reading out loud, because this is a poetic language, that the reader needs to raise or lower their voice. Further, another point that is different is the use of masculine and feminine nouns in Spanish. This is important to understand and recognize because it has been found that languages that employ such concepts as masculine and feminine nouns draw an unknown bias towards words. For example, the word face, which is supposed to be something beautiful, is feminine, which is cara, versus the hands, which are a tool and not necessarily beautiful but helpful, is a masculine word. Below is a table demonstrating when words are typically masculine in the Spanish language. This occurs when at the end of a word you have an L, an O, an N, an E, R, or S, such as in the words papel, mano, aún, hombre, doctor, autobús. What this means is that the article L needs to be placed before these words. Contrary to this, the word cara, which is a feminine word, needs the article la before it. One of the most important differences and similarities between the two languages is the employment of cognates. Cognates are words in two languages that share similar meaning, spelling, and pronunciation. While English may share very few cognates with a language like Chinese, 30 to 40% of all words in English have a related word in Spanish. Drawing attention to cognates for educators as an effective teaching strategy can be very helpful. False cognates, on the other hand, are words that sound like they could be cognate but actually have an entirely different meaning. For example, some false cognates are the words actually and its false cognate actualmente. The word actually can be translated to en realidad, and actualmente in Spanish actually means currently. The word assist and asistir are two other words that are commonly mistranslated. Assist should be translated to ayudar and asistir to attend. This is important because L's need to be given correct instructions. When the educator is giving out instructions, they need to be aware that words like actually and assist may be false cognates to the words that they're used to. I think there are some important cultural norms that educators should be aware of as well. First of all is the influence of religion in Latino and Spanish-speaking countries. According to one study, it was found that 84% of Spanish-speaking individuals were raised in a Catholic home and had Catholic influence. Due to this, the idea that men are more dominant to women is a part of the culture, and typically, elders are supposed to be looked up to as well. Further, as a person grows older, they are seen as more capable of making decisions, so this can influence our L's and their self-efficacy and the ability to work and make decisions in the classroom. Further, one other cultural norm that is commonly accepted is being 10 to 15 minutes late to an event. This is not seen as rude and is in fact appropriate and something that educators may need to work on in their classes with their students while discussing expected and unexpected behaviors. Further, under this section, it is important to recognize that students and their families have different ideas of what the rules are when it comes to communicating with others. Typically, people from the culture where Spanish is the dominant language supports people talking over one another or interrupting one another's thoughts. Due to the idea that this means they are interested in the idea which another person is putting forth. If a person interrupts another, it is a sign that they are paying attention or want to ask a clarifying question so that they can better comprehend the material. To add on to this, it is also important to understand that individuals who speak Spanish may offer little wait time when a question is asked. This is because it is expected that an individual has the answer right away because they are paying attention. If hands are not being raised right away from those who are raised in this type of household, then that means they may be confused and need clarification. But due to the power distance or inability to communicate their question, they may need help articulating their question or concern. Nonverbal communication is also very important. Gestures are one form of nonverbal communication, which is important for educators to understand. Typically, the come here gesture we use in the US, where we raise our forefingers and place our thumb down while indicating that the person should come to the teacher, is a vulgar gesture in some cultures because it is seen as a romantic intent gesture. Further, tossing an object to someone is also considered rude, and you can typically expect that hand gestures are used in a medium to high frequency. As for greeting someone, it is okay to touch another individual, especially if you have a relationship with them. And typically for strangers, they shake hands, and the woman will extend her hand first if she wants to have her hand shook. Finally, students may avoid direct eye contact with adults because they are taught that is a sign of disrespect to their elders. There are some tips and tricks that educators can use in order to better their practice and communicate with both students and parents more effectively. First, educators should understand that students may struggle with talking over one another. This can be seen as rude from many educators, but it is a sign of interest in the subject. Many of the times, this can lead to teachable moments or an opportunity to teach expected behaviors in the classroom. Next, students may avoid eye contact due to it being perceived as disrespectful, but this is a perceived power distance that the student has. Students may be perceived as mumbling by an educator as well because of the volume that Spanish speakers speak at is much quieter than that which educators are used to. Next, understand language differences. Cognates and false cognates can lead to either helping or hindering the L in their lessons. Understanding these differences before they impede your lesson and L's understanding are a good tool to have. Students will also work well in groups because they will have opportunities to collaborate with their peers and develop that academic and social language, BICS and CALP. Educators also need to be aware of the way to effectively interact with parents. Educators need to understand the culture from which the parents and students come from. There are over 20 countries which Spanish is spoken in, and not every country is the same. Be aware of nonverbal cues that you may give off to the parents. Many of the cues we think are okay and commonly accepted in the US may come across as rude or vulgar to some people from different countries and cultures. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope you are better informed about this language, the cultures linked to it, and the people that speak it. Below is my reference page if you want more information about any one topic.